time for another chapter recap. Hi, I'm Mac Frazier, pastor of the Washington New Church in Mitchellville, Maryland, and this is part 14 in the series, Let's Read the Gospel of Mark. If you missed the beginning of this series, there's a link to it here and also in the description of this video. And since we've just completed chapter 2 of the book, I'll do a quick recap of the last 4 videos. Chapter 2 opened with Jesus teaching in a house in Capernaum, where he attracted a crowd of people so large it was standing room only right out to the front door. Some people had brought a friend with them who was unable to walk, hoping to get him healed, but they couldn't get him in through the door. They were determined, though, so they went up on the roof, made an opening there, and lowered the person down into the room Jesus was teaching in. Jesus then told the person that their sins were forgiven. This bothered the scribes who were there because, as they said, only God can forgive sins. His response was to do something else that no mortal person could do. He healed the person's paralysis. Then, we read about Jesus getting into trouble with a group called the Pharisees, who were close associates of the scribes. They were bothered by him recruiting a tax collector as a disciple, and then going to a dinner party with a bunch more tax collectors and other undesirables. When they criticized him, Jesus told them his purpose was to help sinners, not the righteous. Next, we read how some folks were comparing the followers of Jesus with those of the Pharisees and also with those of John the Baptist. Specifically, people were asking why the Lord's disciples didn't practice ritual fasting like those other 2 groups did. His answer had 2 parts. First, he said that it would be wrong for the wedding guests to fast while the bridegroom, Jesus, was still at the wedding party. Second, he said that you can't put new things into old containers, meaning that what he was there to say and do was so new that it wasn't compatible with their traditions. Finally, in the most recent video, we read how the Pharisees criticized Jesus for letting his disciples do work on the Sabbath, again, by picking food for themselves from a field they were passing by. His response? The laws about not doing work on the Sabbath weren't put in place because that day of the week was meant to be a burden, but because having a holy day of rest was helpful to people. Also, he declared himself the Lord of the Sabbath. So, let's continue our reading with chapter 3, verses 1 through 6, where the ongoing argument about the Sabbath day continues. Again, he entered the synagogue, and a man was there with a withered hand. And they watched Jesus to see whether he would heal him on the Sabbath, so that they might accuse him. And he said to the man with the withered hand, "Come here." And he said to them, "Is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do harm, to save a life or to kill?" But they were silent. And he looked around at them with anger, grieved at their hardness of heart, and said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." He stretched it out, and his hand was restored. The Pharisees went out and immediately held counsel with the Herodians against him, how to destroy him. And another faction enters the arena. The Herodians were people who actively supported the political ambitions of the Herodian family dynasty. Herod the Great was an Edomite who was effectively the king of Israel and Judah and a client of the Roman Empire at the time of the birth of Jesus. When he died, the Roman government divided his rule equally among his descendants. They were called tetrarchs because there were 4 equal co-rulers. One of them, Herod Antipas, was the tetrarch of Galilee, where our story currently takes place. We'll learn more about him in future videos. Anyway, we now see the Pharisees making alliances with these Herodians against Jesus, even though traditionally the 2 factions tended to be at odds with one another. Now, we should talk about what Jesus actually did here that got the Pharisees scheming, but this is a chapter recap video, and so We're already running a little long, so it will have to wait until next time. For now, let's close by saying the Lord's Prayer together. Ready? Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. Thanks for joining me. If you're enjoying this series, share it with someone, and have a great day.